New York Harbor, 1942. The steel docks stretch for miles, ships creaking and groaning as they unload crates of ammunition, supplies, and secrets for the war overseas. The air smells of salt, oil, and something darker, the threat of sabotage. Somewhere in the shadows men watch, not soldiers, not government agents, men with sharp eyes, scarred hands, and loyalties written in blood. They walk the piers with the ease of kings, respected and feared by every longshoreman and sailor who crosses their path. Across the water, Nazi U-boats patrol the Atlantic, hunting American shipping, threatening the lifeline of a nation at war. And in the city itself, whispers travel from bar rooms to alleyways. Enemy spies have arrived, and they are looking for someone familiar. The U.S. government is in a bind. How do you protect the nation's vital supply chain when you can't trust the docks, the crews, or even your own men? Enter Charles "Lucky" Luciano, the most powerful mobster in New York, serving a 10-year prison sentence. A man whose life has been built on crime, control, and cunning. To the outside world, he is a prisoner. To the Navy, he may be the only man capable of preventing disaster. In the weeks that follow, an impossible plan takes shape. The government will reach out to the Mafia, offering freedom, influence, and leverage in exchange for loyalty, information, and protection. It is a pact that no one would admit existed. Gangsters working for the United States. A paradox that blurs lines between patriotism and crime, between loyalty and survival. And in the shadows, as the war rages on and spies lurk among the piers, the most unlikely alliance of the century is formed. Chapter 1. The City at War. New York City, 1942. The skyline bristles with smoke from factories, and the roar of shipyards fills the air. Thousands of men, young and old, move cargo from ship to warehouse with the precision of soldiers, though many are no more disciplined than the street gangs that run the boroughs. The harbor is alive, but danger lurks beneath the surface. German U-boats patrol the Atlantic, hunting supply convoys bound for Europe. Word spreads of mysterious fires, sabotage, and missing shipments. Every longshoreman knows someone has been watching, someone has been planning. At the offices of the Office of Naval Intelligence, men in crisp uniforms argue. "We can't trust the docks," one officer says, slamming a folder onto the desk. "We've got men quitting, shipments disappearing, and no leads on who's behind it." Another officer leans forward, pinching the bridge of his nose. "We need eyes on the piers that don't come with a uniform. People who know the streets, the crews. People who understand the docks better than we ever will." In a dim hallway, a secretary whispers, "You're talking about the Mafia." A sharp-eyed officer, Captain Charles Reynolds, frowns. "We're talking about survival. If that means working with criminals, so be it." Meanwhile, in prison, Charles "Lucky" Luciano walks his cell like a caged lion. The walls of Dannemora prison are cold, damp, and lifeless, but he thrives in the small spaces he controls. Guards fear him. Prisoners respect him. And the Navy? They see an opportunity. One morning, the warden brings a visitor, a man in a Navy uniform with a thick folder. "Mr. Luciano," the warden says, "Captain Reynolds would like a word." Luciano tilts his head, studying the man. "You're asking me to help your boys and from in here?" Reynolds folds his arms. "We need your men to secure the piers, protect the shipments, prevent sabotage. In exchange, well, we can talk about your sentence." Luciano smirks, pacing the small cell. "You want me to make the dock safe, using the people you put in here as criminals?" "Yes," Reynolds says bluntly. "You know them better than we ever could. They'll listen to you, and we need someone they'll listen to." Luciano stops and leans against the wall. "You're asking the fox to guard the henhouse." Reynolds nods. "And you're the only fox we trust." Luciano laughs softly, a low, dangerous chuckle. "Fine, I'll make the deal. But remember this, you don't get loyalty from criminals. You get obedience for a price." Back on the piers, longshoremen whisper of new oversight. Men who once ran numbers, collected debts, or enforced rules now walk among the crates with Navy officers at their side. Some men recognize familiar faces, capos, soldiers and enforcers from Luciano's old network, walking the docks, clipboard in hand, checking manifests, watching for suspicious activity. "Who put these guys in charge?" one stevedore mutters. "They're friends," another says cautiously, eyes flicking toward a burly man with a scar above his eye. "Friends of a very powerful man." Sabotage attempts are immediately investigated. Crates missing their seals are flagged. Strange visitors are shadowed. By midsummer, the docks see fewer accidents, fewer fires, and fewer disappearances. Reynolds reports back to Washington. "The Mafia is doing our work," he says. "It's unconventional but effective." Luciano, still behind bars, receives updates through a network of trusted intermediaries. Every message from the docks is a reminder of his power, even imprisoned. Every sailor protected, every sabotage prevented, cements the paradox. Criminals keeping the nation safe. And yet, in the shadows, everyone knows the risks. One misstep, a missed shipment, a rumor, a betrayal, could destroy the fragile alliance and reignite violence across the waterfront. Luciano smiles faintly, lighting a cigarette. "They don't realize," he murmurs to the prison walls. "I'm the one really running this war." Chapter 2. The Secret Alliance, New York, summer 1942. In a smoke-filled back room above a quiet Italian restaurant in Little Italy, Meyer Lansky, Vito Genovese, and other trusted lieutenants gather. The air is thick with cigar smoke and tension. Word has spread. The Navy wants their help, and the men of the Mafia are being asked to work for the government. Lansky pours himself a drink and glances at the others. "You heard, right? They want us to protect the docks. Against spies. Against sabotage." Genovese snorts. "The Navy? They need us? Ha, that's almost flattering." Lansky leans forward. "It's more than flattering. It's leverage. You think Luciano stays in prison for 10 years without someone looking out for him? This deal could be his ticket." A younger capo speaks up. "And us? We risk our necks for them? For Uncle Sam?" "Patriotism ain't got much to do with it," Lansky says. "It's about survival and power. Make sure the piers run smooth and nobody goes after Luciano. We do this right. Everyone walks away richer, stronger." The room falls silent. Each man weighs the decision. Risking exposure is dangerous, but refusing could mean losing influence, or worse. Finally, Genovese nods. "Fine, but the deal's ours too. We don't work for them. We work with them. Make that clear." Meanwhile, in prison, Luciano receives the message via an intermediary. He studies the folded note carefully, a thin smile curling his lips. "Tell Reynolds I accept," he instructs. "But they follow my orders. They protect the docks my way, or nothing moves." Reynolds in Washington agrees begrudgingly. Rules are set. The Mafia will monitor longshoremen, vet employees, and identify potential saboteurs. In return, Luciano's sentence will be reduced, and his men will be left untouched. The first test comes quickly. A shipment bound for Europe is rumored to have been tampered with. The Navy has no time to investigate without tipping off potential saboteurs. Genovese dispatches men to the piers. They blend in as dock workers, inspectors, and stevedores. A suspicious man, carrying a strange package, is followed silently. He notices nothing. Within hours, the package is intercepted, and the saboteur quietly disappears into the crowd. Lansky receives a report and laughs. "See? Told you. We protect our own, and they'll never know it's us." Reynolds, watching from the Navy office, feels a mixture of awe and unease. "It works. Too well," he mutters. Across the city, the docks begin to change. Mafia men enforce order with subtle authority. Ship manifests are checked twice. Crates sealed and resealed. Sailors and longshoremen who once scoffed at authority now nod respectfully to men who carry scars and names whispered across the underworld. At night, the Mafia gathers intelligence. They watch for unfamiliar faces. They question suspicious workers under the guise of casual conversation. Any hint of espionage or sabotage is reported back to the Navy through confidential channels. Luciano, still in prison, reviews daily updates. Every intercepted package, every foiled sabotage attempt, strengthens his control. Even from behind bars, he runs operations with the efficiency of a wartime general. A young soldier arrives breathless one afternoon, reporting a suspicious man with coded messages. Genovese nods, speaking quietly. Check his pockets. Don't alert anyone. We want him to think he's clever. The Navy will thank us later. The man is caught red-handed, documents seized, and quietly handed over to naval intelligence. As weeks turn into months, trust begins to form, a fragile, uneasy alliance built on necessity. The Navy relies on the Mafia to maintain security. The Mafia relies on the Navy to protect Luciano and preserve their influence. In one rare meeting arranged under strict secrecy, Luciano speaks with Reynolds via intermediaries. "You see the results?" Luciano asks, voice low. "Piers are safe. Sabotage is minimal. Ships sail. Everyone wins." Reynolds swallows hard. "I never thought I'd say this, but yes, you're the most effective security force I've ever worked with." Luciano laughs softly. "Effective and quiet, remember that. Quiet keeps men alive. Loud gets them killed." By late 1942, Operation Underworld has cemented itself. The docks are safer. Shipping losses decrease. Sabotage attempts are thwarted. And for the first time, the government and organized crime walk a tightrope together, a dance between legality and criminality that no one dares speak of publicly. In the shadows, the Mafia knows they've gained something priceless: influence, leverage, and the protection of the most powerful nation on Earth. The Navy knows it has gained something invaluable: eyes, ears, and control over the city's most critical wartime operations. And above it all, Luciano smiles quietly in his cell, thinking, who would have guessed that criminals could save the nation? Chapter 3. Pawns and Spies. New York Harbor, late 1942. The docks are quieter than usual, but that doesn't mean danger has passed. German saboteurs have infiltrated the city, posing as dock workers, delivery men, and even Navy civilians. They carry blueprints, explosives, and coded messages meant to disrupt the Allied supply chain. A small group of Mafia men, handpicked by Genovese and Lansky, patrol the piers like hunters. Each has a specific role: surveillance, questioning, reporting. They know the docks better than anyone, and now their skills are being used for the war effort, though no one outside the operation can know it. One night, a burly Mafia soldier named Frankie Carbone spots a man lingering near a shipment of torpedoes bound for Norfolk. Frankie whispers into his radio. Something's off. Too nervous. Package marked with letters. Doesn't match manifest. Minutes later, the man approaches the crates, fumbles with the seals. Frankie signals the others. The saboteur freezes, unaware that he's surrounded. "You're a long way from home, friend," Frankie says casually, slapping a hand on the man's shoulder. "Ever heard of checking your paperwork twice?" The man tries to speak, stammering in broken English. Frankie smirks. "Relax. The Navy knows everything now. You're just part of a very thorough inspection." In Washington, Captain Reynolds receives reports daily. Each intercepted attempt is logged, mapped, and cross-referenced. "The Mafia's eyes are invaluable," he admits to a fellow officer. "We've prevented more sabotage than our agents ever could." Meanwhile, the spies themselves operate under pressure. Nazi intelligence sends messages with precise timing, coded language, and strict instructions. Their plan: destroy cargo, delay shipments, and create chaos in the city. But every move is countered silently by men who live in shadows. One evening, a new suspect arrives at the pier. Young, clean-cut, wearing a delivery uniform. Salvatore Sammy Romano, another mob lieutenant, approaches with a casual swagger. "You lost, kid?" he asks, keeping his tone friendly but firm. The man hesitates, sweating. I work here," he stammers. Romano squints. "Do you? Or do you work for someone else?" The man gulps. I deliver supplies. I'm new." Romano leans closer. "The Navy's counting on these crates. You sure you're not counting against them? A hint of panic flashes in the man's eyes. Romano's hand moves subtly. A check of his pocket reveals a folded paper. Coded messages, unmistakable. Captain Reynolds will want a word with you, Romano says, stepping back and nodding to the Navy contact waiting in the shadows. The saboteur disappears quietly, escorted to the authorities. No gunfire, no arrests made public. To the city, it is just another ordinary night at the harbor. To the government, and to the Mafia, it is a victory. At the same time, tension simmers among the Mafia ranks. Some members resent working for the government, seeing it as a dangerous distraction from their business. Rumors spread that certain lieutenants are skimming profits from wartime shipments, selling goods on the black market. Luciano, still behind bars, keeps a careful watch through intermediaries. A note arrives. One man is questioning the alliance, threatening to betray the arrangement for personal gain. Luciano's reply is simple and chilling. Keep your mouth closed. The docks are mine, the Navy is ours, and anyone who forgets that won't last a week. Meanwhile, spies continue to probe. Some attempt subtle sabotage, switching crates, smuggling small explosives, planting forged manifests. Each attempt is met with immediate detection. Mafia men have developed a network of informants, using dock workers, petty criminals, and street contacts to report anything suspicious. A coded message is discovered in a barbershop near the Brooklyn piers. The barber, aware of the operation, quietly alerts Meyer Lansky's men. Within hours, the message is traced back to a German agent posing as a shipping clerk. During the interrogation, the agent mutters, "We thought the docks would be easy. Americans wouldn't notice." Frankie Carbone leans over, smirking. "Easy. You're dealing with people who make a living in shadows. Welcome to the harbor." The agent is handed over to Naval Intelligence, vanishing into the system as quietly as he arrived. By early 1943, the docks run like a well-oiled machine. Sabotage attempts drop dramatically. Shipping losses decrease. Morale among Allied sailors improves as they see fewer incidents of fires, theft, and accidents. Reynolds meets with a select group of Navy officers. "We owe more than we can measure to these men," he admits. "We can't say it publicly, but without their efforts we'd have lost thousands of tons of supplies." Lansky smiles in the shadows. "We don't need credit," he whispers. "We just need control." And control is exactly what they maintain. The Mafia balances its criminal empire with wartime duty, navigating a dangerous duality that no one else could manage. Luciano, in prison, nods as he reads the latest report. "The Navy gets their ships, I get my freedom, my men get respect, and everyone else thinks it's all by luck. Perfect." Chapter 4. The Price of Loyalty, New York, late 1943. The docks hum with activity, but beneath the surface, tension simmers. The Mafia's alliance with the U.S. Navy has been a success. Sabotage is nearly eliminated, shipments arrive on schedule, and spies are caught before they can act. Yet the very secrecy that protects the operation also breeds suspicion, fear, and resentment. At a dimly lit back room above a Little Italy cafe, Genovese paces, cigar smoke curling upward. Across from him, a younger soldier named Tony Ricci fidgets nervously. "You said we follow orders," Genovese says, voice low but threatening. "The Navy thinks we're helping. Some people think we're stealing." Ricci swallows hard. I didn't mean..." Genovese slaps the table. "Intent doesn't matter. Loyalty does. And loyalty has a price. Remember that." Meanwhile, in prison, Luciano reads reports from his network of lieutenants. One message catches his eye. A Mafia soldier has been seen selling supplies meant for the Navy to black market dealers. Luciano grits his teeth. He summons an intermediary. "Make it clear. If any man tries to profit off this alliance, he disappears. No exceptions." The message spreads quickly. The docks, once chaotic with rival factions and petty theft, now operate under strict surveillance. Every crate is counted, every man observed. The Mafia enforces discipline ruthlessly, blending criminal authority with the veneer of patriotism. Tensions rise further when the Navy requests the Mafia's help in securing sensitive intelligence about German U-boats along the Atlantic coast. For many, the lines between criminal enterprise and military duty blur. Meyer Lansky, ever pragmatic, meets with Genovese and others. "We didn't sign up to be Navy officers," he says. "We did this to save Luciano, protect the docks, and keep our influence. But now, we're spies? This is dangerous." Genovese nods grimly. Danger is part of the deal. Every job has a cost. Remember the rules. One mistake, and it's your life, not just your pride. Back on the waterfront, a small group of Mafia men notices a suspicious crate marked for military supplies. They follow the longshoreman handling it, realizing he's been approached by a German agent posing as a ship clerk. Frankie Carbone whispers to his men, "This is the one. We can't fail. Not for the Navy. Not for Luciano. Not for ourselves." Hours later, the man is intercepted, the documents confiscated, and the Navy alerted. No one is harmed, but the message is clear. Any disloyalty will be punished swiftly, silently, and without mercy. Even as operations succeed, personal tensions escalate. Soldiers resent the constant surveillance and the demands to report to both the Mafia and the Navy. Rumors spread. Some believe Luciano and Lansky are enriching themselves at the expense of the government, skimming profits from supplies. Luciano's intermediary delivers a sharp warning. Every man who steps out of line disappears. Loyalty isn't a suggestion. It's life or death. The docks, once chaotic and unruly, now operate under an iron-fisted dual authority. Mafia men enforce the rules, the Navy benefits, and ordinary workers quietly obey, fearful of being caught between the two powers. One night, Tony Ricci, the nervous soldier, confides in a colleague. "Do you ever wonder, are we helping the country or just keeping ourselves alive?" His colleague shrugs. "Does it matter? Either way, the rules are the same. One mistake, and you're gone." Loyalty is tested again when a small fire breaks out near a munitions shipment. Smoke billows, alarms blare, and chaos threatens to erupt. Mafia men rush in, directing longshoremen and extinguishing the flames before disaster strikes. Afterward, Lansky remarks dryly, "See, even chaos obeys us if we know how to handle it." But the incident leaves an impression. Even the smallest error could have catastrophic consequences. Survival depends on obedience, secrecy, and the ability to navigate both criminal and governmental worlds. By early 1944, the alliance has become a delicate balance. The Navy depends on the Mafia's street knowledge, while the Mafia relies on the Navy's protection for Luciano and their operations. Any betrayal, by soldier, lieutenant, or sailor, could unravel everything. Luciano, reading another report, mutters quietly, "This is war, gentlemen. Not just the one overseas, the one here, in the streets, the warehouses, and the shadows. Every man has a choice, and every choice has a price." The men on the docks nod silently. Some follow orders for loyalty, some for fear, some for profit, but all understand the truth. In this secret war, mistakes are deadly, and survival depends on unwavering discipline. Chapter 5. Operations Edge, Spring, 1944. The harbor is alive with tension. Ships line the piers, cargo crates piled high, and longshoremen work under the watchful eyes of both Mafia enforcers and Navy officers. The alliance has reached its most critical phase. Intelligence operations are no longer limited to the docks. Now, coded communications, suspect passengers, and potential spies must all be monitored before they even board ships bound for Europe. Meyer Lansky walks among the docks, observing operations. He stops to nod at a sailor inspecting crates. "Good. Keep your eyes open. This ain't a game." Nearby, Vito Genovese and his men intercept a suspicious shipment labeled as medical supplies. The crates are unusually heavy. Genovese opens one, discovering hidden compartments filled with weapons and German documentation. He calls over a Navy contact. "Looks like our friends across the Atlantic aren't messing around. We caught them before it was too late." The Navy agent shakes his head. "Thanks to your men, these weapons never leave the port. That's thousands of lives saved. Genovese smirks, pocketing the documents. Consider it civic duty. Meanwhile, behind prison walls, Luciano reads daily intelligence reports brought by intermediaries. Each intercepted spy, each foiled sabotage strengthens his influence. Even confined, he controls operations with precision. He smiles faintly as a report arrives. A German saboteur attempting to attach explosives to a fuel shipment was quietly apprehended by Carbone's men. No public notice, no chaos, just another crisis avoided. Luciano mutters to himself, "We keep the city safe, the Navy happy, and nobody knows it was us." As the operation intensifies, risk increases. A small group of Nazi agents poses as dock workers, testing the Mafia's vigilance. They plant a minor explosive near a shipment of artillery shells. Frankie Carbone spots the unusual movement. He gestures to his men, who surround the saboteurs without revealing themselves. "You thought you could sneak in?" Frankie whispers. "Not on my watch." The saboteurs panic, realizing they are outnumbered by men who know the docks, the city, and the streets like no others. Within moments, they are handed off to naval intelligence. Later, Frankie recounts the event to a colleague. "Sometimes, being criminals gives us an advantage. We know how to watch, how to follow, and how to disappear without being noticed." The colleague nods. "And all of this, for what?" Frankie shrugs. "For Luciano, for survival, and maybe for the thrill of it." By mid-1944, the Alliance's efficiency becomes legendary. Shipping delays and sabotage incidents drop dramatically. The Navy and Allied forces begin relying on intelligence reports from Mafia operatives to prevent further losses. At a secret meeting, Captain Reynolds addresses key Mafia lieutenants. "Your efforts have saved countless lives and tons of cargo. You've exceeded expectations. I hope history remembers this, even if the world never knows who actually did it." Genovese chuckles. "History isn't written by those who operate in the shadows. It's written by the people who survive them." However, success breeds tension. Some Mafia soldiers begin asking for personal favors or payments from Navy contacts. Luciano, ever precise, sends a simple message. Operation is about the docks, not your wallets. One misstep, one greedy hand, and it ends. Remember why you're here. Obedience strengthens. Loyalty becomes currency. Mistakes are eliminated before they escalate. The docks operate like a silent machine, efficient, dangerous, and invisible to the public eye. Even ordinary longshoremen notice the change. Operations are smoother, safety improves, yet whispers remain. Who are the men ensuring the harbor runs perfectly? Some suspect government inspectors, others suspect a hidden hand. Few, if any, guess the truth. That organized crime, America's most feared gangsters, are the unseen guardians of the wartime supply chain. By late 1944, Operation Underworld reaches its peak. The Mafia has proven itself indispensable. Sabotage is nearly eradicated. Shipments sail safely to Europe, supporting the Allied war effort. The Navy, wary but grateful, maintains the clandestine partnership. Luciano reads one final report summarizing the operation's success. Docks secure, enemy agents intercepted, losses minimal, Mafia influence strengthened, allies satisfied. He leans back, lighting a cigarette. "Perfect," he murmurs. "Allies in daylight, shadows at night, and everyone thinks it's coincidence." The docks, once chaotic and vulnerable, now run under the invisible guidance of men who live by a code older than the Navy itself. Operation Underworld has reached its edge, a high-stakes dance where loyalty, secrecy, and cunning have saved lives and reshaped the rules of engagement. Chapter 6. The Fallout Spring, 1945. The war in Europe nears its end. Allied forces advance into Germany, supply lines stretch thousands of miles, and the New York docks, once vulnerable to sabotage, hum with unprecedented efficiency. Operation Underworld has succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. In Washington, Navy officials quietly assess the results. Files are marked top secret, reports filed and hidden. The truth of the Mafia's role remains buried, even as the government congratulates itself on secure shipping. Captain Reynolds leans back in his office, sipping coffee. It worked. The docks stayed intact, thousands of tons of supplies delivered, and nobody outside this room will ever know who did it. The door opens, and an aide delivers a message from the Attorney General. Luciano's sentence, and there's talk of commutation. The Mafia's help can't be ignored any longer. Reynolds exhales slowly. I guess even criminals have leverage. Meanwhile, behind bars, Luciano learns of the possible sentence reduction. He smiles faintly. Freedom, he mutters, and all because I made them a deal they couldn't refuse. His lieutenants on the outside, Genovese, Lansky, and others, begin consolidating power. Their influence, bolstered by the wartime alliance, spreads across New York's docks and beyond. They now have the implicit approval of government authorities, a paradoxical protection that strengthens their criminal empires. At a discreet meeting in Manhattan, Lansky addresses his men. The war's almost over. Allies are winning. But remember, our power isn't from them. It's from us. We showed them we're useful. Now it's our turn to reap the benefits. Genovese adds grimly. And any man who forgets that pays the price. On the docks, ordinary workers notice subtle changes. Mafia enforcers maintain order, but public tension has eased. Accidents are rarer. The city runs smoother. Yet the men who protect it remain invisible, their deeds whispered only in fear and respect. Frankie Carbone, now a senior lieutenant, reflects on the months past. We kept the city safe. We followed orders from a government we don't fully trust. And we kept each other alive. That's loyalty. And it comes with a price. As the war concludes, the U.S. Navy quietly withdraws direct oversight of Mafia operations. The alliance dissolves publicly, though the unspoken understanding remains. The Mafia retains newfound leverage, and Luciano's influence grows beyond the prison walls. In 1946, Luciano is released from prison, a direct result of his cooperation. His return to the streets is met with respect, fear, and quiet admiration. Allies and rivals alike recognize that he now commands not just criminal power, but a unique historical role. The man who leveraged crime to aid a nation at war. Luciano meets with Lansky. The docks were safe, allies satisfied. We did what no one else could do. Now, it's time to rebuild. Lansky nods. And nobody outside this room will ever know how it happened. Perfect. But the fallout isn't just power and profit. Whispers follow Luciano and his lieutenants. Other crime families resent the implicit government backing. Envy simmers, old rivalries flare, and tension simmers just below the surface. Genovese muses. We saved the city, but power is a double-edged sword. Allies can protect us for now, but one misstep, and the old wars resume. For the men of the Mafia, Operation Underworld is more than a secret mission. It is a lesson in duality. They navigated the line between patriotism and criminality, risk and reward, obedience and control. They were soldiers in a war they did not fight openly, agents in a nation that could not publicly acknowledge them. And for Luciano, the price of loyalty paid off. He walks free, his empire intact, his influence strengthened. But he never forgets the paradox of it all. The nation he once undermined now relied on him for survival. He reflects quietly one evening, cigarette smoke curling in the dim light of his office. Crime and country, two sides of the same coin. We flipped it, and somehow, we survived. Chapter 7. Shadows After Victory. New York, 1946. The war in Europe has ended. Soldiers return home, ships dock without fear of sabotage, and the city celebrates victory. Yet beneath the surface, a new reality has taken shape, one shaped by a secret alliance no historian will openly record. The Mafia walks taller. Their role in safeguarding the docks has granted them leverage, respect, and power few imagined possible. Even politicians who once scorned them tread carefully. Every mob lieutenant understands the lesson. Usefulness can protect, influence can shield, and discretion can make the invisible dominant. Luciano strolls along the Brooklyn waterfront, observing the bustling docks. Former adversaries now nod in acknowledgement. The city functions, but the balance of power has subtly shifted. A lieutenant whispers to him, "Boss, They say the Navy still quietly asks about the piers. Luciano smirks. Let them ask. We gave them what they needed, and they'll remember it when it matters. Meanwhile, whispers circulate about the operation itself. Few know the truth, but stories persist. Government officials quietly acknowledging mob influence, shipments that arrive safely against impossible odds, criminals serving as unsung heroes of the war. In private, Meyer Lansky laughs with close associates. Patriotism has a funny way of working when it comes from the streets. We saved the docks, and nobody will ever admit we did it. Genovese, less amused, leans back. Enjoy it while you can. Power is fragile. Allies can turn, rivals always watch, and history will ignore us unless we remind them quietly. The former allies of necessity now become rivals again. Power struggles within the Mafia flare up as families compete for influence, leveraging the prestige gained from Operation Underworld. Some former soldiers demand more respect or cut into profits. Conflicts, though muted, simmer beneath the surface. Luciano, aware of the precarious balance, convenes a council. War ends, he says, but control doesn't. Remember what we learned: obedience, secrecy, timing. The docks are ours. Let no man forget it. Even the Navy continues to benefit silently. Shipping remains secure, intelligence channels remain open, and few realize that the men enforcing the safety of America's ports are the very same who once ruled the streets with violence and cunning. One veteran officer recalls years later, "We always knew they were involved. We just couldn't say it. Without them, the war might have cost us more than lives. It might have cost us the ports themselves." As the city rebuilds, the Mafia consolidates its empire. Luciano expands operations into new ventures. Lansky invests in gambling, smuggling, and business enterprises, knowing the shadow of wartime service has bought them credibility and immunity, however delicate, from law enforcement scrutiny. The docks, once chaotic and vulnerable, now run under invisible guardianship. Mafia influence spreads quietly, an enduring legacy of Operation Underworld. And in the shadows, every man involved remembers. They survived not because they were law-abiding, but because they were indispensable. Luciano lights a cigarette in the dim light of his office, staring at the harbor he once controlled from prison. He exhales slowly. Wars end. People celebrate. But shadows endure. And those who know the truth survive. The city moves on, oblivious to the paradox. Its saviors were criminals, its protectors invisible, and its history forever shaped by those willing to operate in the gray between loyalty and law. Operation Underworld becomes legend in whispers, a secret alliance remembered by few, feared by many, and studied by those who seek to understand the complex dance between crime and necessity. Chapter 8: Legacy of the Hidden War. Late 1940s. The war is over. Europe is rebuilding. Soldiers return to civilian life. The United States celebrates its triumph. Yet the story of Operation Underworld remains buried, known only to those who participated. The Mafia, however, carries the invisible badge of its contribution, a power and influence that will resonate for decades. Charles Lucky Luciano steps into Manhattan, a free man after years behind bars. The docks, once his domain through shadowy intermediaries, now respect him openly, subtly, but unmistakably. The Navy may never acknowledge his role publicly, but its tacit recognition strengthens his reputation among allies and rivals alike. Luciano meets with Meyer Lansky and Vito Genovese. "The war taught us a lesson," he says, lighting a cigarette. "Governments need us more than they'll admit, and influence is forever." Lansky nods, eyes scanning the room. "We helped them win. They can't punish us without revealing their secrets. That's leverage. That's power." Genovese leans back, voice quieter but firm. "And we'll use it wisely. But remember, the shadows we live in don't go away just because the war ends. Enemies, rivals, they watch." Across New York, former Navy officers recall the dock's near-miraculous security. Shipping losses, fires, and sabotage attempts were lower than ever. Yet few speak openly. Top-secret files remain hidden. The reality that organized crime helped save the supply chain is whispered in closed offices, never printed in newspapers. A retired officer, decades later, recounts quietly, "The docks were safer than we could have imagined. The Mafia ran their own network, reporting spies before we even knew they existed. Without them, well, the history books would have been much darker." The Mafia leverages its wartime contributions to expand influence in post-war America. Gambling operations, unions, and shipping contracts thrive. Their political reach extends subtly into city halls and federal offices. Men who were once imprisoned or feared are now quietly respected, their dual role as criminals and wartime allies giving them a unique untouchability. Luciano reflects privately, "We walked a tightrope between law and chaos. We saved lives, ran operations, and strengthened our empire. The government couldn't acknowledge it, but they couldn't ignore it either. Yet the hidden war leaves consequences. Internal rivalries flare as families jockey for the advantages earned during Operation Underworld. Some men, emboldened by success, overreach. Law enforcement, aware of Mafia influence, but unable to prove wartime cooperation publicly, intensifies investigations into post-war criminal activity. Genovese meets with his lieutenants. "We gained power, yes, but the game never stops. Every advantage has a cost, and the government can turn against us at any moment. Never forget the shadows we walked through." Operation Underworld becomes legend in certain circles, studied by historians, law enforcement, and organized crime alike. Its paradox, gangsters acting as patriots, fascinates, confounds, and shapes perceptions of loyalty, necessity, and morality. Luciano, now a symbol of cunning and survival, walks through Manhattan at night. The harbor glints under streetlights, silent and obedient. He murmurs to himself, "Wars are fought in the light, but power lives in the shadows, and those who survive the shadows shape history." The legacy endures. Mafia families gain unprecedented leverage in unions, shipping, and organized crime. The U.S. government benefits from secure shipping during Wartime, never fully acknowledging the Mafia's role. Lessons of secrecy, loyalty, and pragmatism influence both sides for decades to come. A paradox is cemented. Criminals as protectors, patriots in disguise, power wielded quietly but decisively. The docks are quiet now. Ships come and go. Workers hustle, unaware of the invisible hands guiding their every step. The Mafia watches from the shadows, and the nation moves forward, forever shaped by a hidden war fought not on battlefields, but on the piers of New York City. Luciano exhales the last wisp of cigarette smoke. The war is over, the docks are secure, and history, though silent, has remembered, in ways that only those in the shadows fully understand.